Alrighty, we're getting pretty close to being done with the playlist. So let's go ahead and implement our sorting. So this sorting algorithm that I'm going to be using, or code, is going to be very similar to the sorting code that we saw an example of in the last course that I did on Reactive Extensions. So that should feel pretty familiar. But we are going to go ahead and implement a sortable list in our playlist. And we're going to do so without using any sort of sorting plugin or anything from jQuery or anything like that. And I think that really underscores the power of reactive extensions and how concise, reactive code can be. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step is, I'm going to go ahead and expand this because we have a bit of code to write. The first part is, I'm going to go into my components playlist sort, and I'm going to put in our dependencies. We're going to depend on the playlist store, the users store, and we're also going to depend on the list component. So I'm just going to say money list. Then this playlist equals playlist store, this users equals users store, and this list equals list. Now before I forget, like I think I did last time, let's go ahead and fill these dependencies. So I'm going to come up here to our root component, and no, not our root component. I'm going to come in here to our list component. And I'm going to scroll down to our playlist sort component, and I'm going to pass in this playlist, this users, and this element. Because the element of this component represents the things that we're going to be sorting. So make sure you have the dependencies being filled in. So let's close that out, and let's write our onAttach. So I'll say onAttach. So the first thing I'm going to do, while we, the way this dragging and dropping sorting thing is going to work, is we are not going to move the elements as we sort. Instead, we're going to show a placeholder of where the elements will be moved to once we finish the sort operation. And that's just easier to code. And it also makes it so we don't have to synchronize the, let's say that we tried to sort, but then the server rejected our sort operation. We haven't moved any items yet until the sort operation tells the server to move the items, and the server tells us that the items were moved. So I'm going to start off by creating a const placeholder, and it's going to be a div class equals placeholder. And for here, we'll just put in place here as basic text here, and we'll do div. And then I'll append it to, so append to this mount. Or rather, let's see here. Yes, this mount. So first things first, let's go ahead and import jQuery. Import money from jQuery. Let's also import observable. So import observable from RxJS, because I have a feeling we're going to need that. So with that placeholder, let's go ahead and first talk about how we're going to model this. The way we're going to model it is, first of all, we're going to have a stream that's going to represent our start drag events. So I'm going to say const start drag money equals observable from event this list mouse down dot filter this users is logged in. So only produce this event if we're logged in, and then filter e goes into money e dot target dot has class thumb, and then dot do e goes into e dot prevent default. So if you recall from our I don't know why it's yelling at me. Why are you yelling at me? Oh, I missed a thing, and I also misspelled thumb, because of course I did. I bet you guys didn't see that coming. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and talk real fast about what thumb is. If we come down here to our list component and we scroll down, remember how we added thumb to the image component. So the thumb class determines what we're going to use to start the dragging event. So that's why we check to see if the element that we clicked on has the thumb class. Then I'm going to say const end drag equals observable from event this body, which I haven't aliased out body yet, but I will here in a moment, mouse up. So what is this body? This body, because we're going to be referencing body so much, I'm just going to, at the top of the constructor, I'm going to kind of cache a reference to the body element as a jQuery element. Then I'm going to say const mouse move money equals observable from event this body mouse move. And then I'm also going to alias out HTML. I'm going to say money HTML HTML. So I'm going to grab the body element and the HTML element. All right, so now we have the stream that represents starting a drag. What constitutes starting a drag? Well, if we mouse down on the list on a element that has a thumb class and we're logged in, that's the beginning of a drag. What constitutes ending a drag? If we do a mouse up. What constitutes moving our mouse? Well, if our mouse moves. So now let's create a stream of move operations. Or how about sort operations? So sort operations money equals start drag dot flat map start event goes into. So this is where things are going to get a little crazy. I'm going to say const from element equals money start event target dot closest li. So remember, the target is going to be the thumb, the image, but then we want to represent the from element as being the li that we clicked on. Then I'm going to say const from comp equals from element dot data component. Remember, we add the playlist list component to the component data attribute on the element. So that's how we get a reference to that item. Then I'm going to say this HTML add class sorting playlist, so we can notify the page basically through CSS that we're now sorting the playlist. Then I'm going to say from element add class dragging, so that notifies that we're currently dragging that item. Then I'm going to say placeholder dot text from component dot source dot title, so that placeholder that represents where we're going to drop that element, his text is going to be the title of the source of the component of the parent of the thumbnail that we clicked on, basically. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and calculate some things that we're going to be using. I'm going to say const half placeholder height equals placeholder at 0 offset height divided by 2. We're going to be using this this calculation many times later, so that's why I want to alias this out right when we start the event, but not every time the mouse moves. And then I want to say const half item height equals this list 0 first child offset height divided by 2. So the half item height is basically the offset height of the first element in the list, assuming that every element has the same height, which we are assuming, by the way. Then I'm going to say let target equals object from is from component and 2 is null. So this target object represents the move operation. What element did we move from and what element did we move to? Next up, now we have to represent each individual move operation. So I'm going to say return mouse move, which will merge the stream that I'm about to create back into the sort operation stream. So I'm going to say return mouse move, start with start event. So we're returning a new stream, but we're populating the stream with the start event. And then I'm going to say map, e goes into jQuery, document element from point e.clientx, e.clienty minus half item height, closest li. And then I'm going to map element into. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying every time we move the mouse, go ahead and try to tell the browser to locate the element that we're hovering over now, and then grab the closest li element out of that. Then I'm going to say map into element. I'm going to say const to component or to comp equals element data component. Then I'm going to say if target.to equals to comp return target. So if we're still hovering over the same element, don't modify anything, just return the target. Then I'm going to say target2 equals 2comp. And now we have to move the placeholder. Because if we got to this line of code, that means the element in this move operation that we're currently hovering over is different from the element we were previously hovering over. So what I'm going to say is const placeholder position equals 2comp, question mark, 2comp element position top plus 2comp element at 0 offset height minus half placeholder height, otherwise minus half placeholder height. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm saying if 2comp is not null, get his component, get his position top, and then add in his offset height, and then subtract half the placeholder height. So this will actually overlay the placeholder between the item we're over, halfway between him and his next item. Otherwise, just locate at negative half placeholder height, where that's going to be the top of the page. The way I'm writing this is if the to component is null, that means we want to move the from component to all the way to the top of the list. Then I'm going to say placeholder.top, or placeholder.css, top is placeholder position, and then I'm going to return target. Then, after we do this map, I'm going to say take until end drag dot last dot do from element remove class dragging. So I'm saying continue to do this whole operation right here until the end drag observable produces an event. And when is that? Well, we can take a look. End drag produces an event when the body receives the mouse up event. Then we want to only receive the final element from this. So we want to sit here and we want to take new elements over and over and over and over again until the stream completes. Then we want to return the last thing of that. And then once we've received the last thing of that, we go ahead and say from element, you are no longer dragging. Actually, we can do one better. We can say element you're no longer dragging in this HTML remove class sorting playlist. So you can kind of see this in stages. This is the beginning of the drag event, right? So we add our classes, we do all our fun stuff there. Then this is the middle of the dragging event. We check to see what element we're currently over, then we move the placeholder to the appropriate position to show where we're going to drop. And then this is the end of the drag event. This is where we clean up and remove the dragging class from our from element and remove sorting playlist from our HTML. All right, let's go ahead and subscribe to sort operations for now, just to test this out. I'm going to say sort operations.money.comp subscribe this, and we'll just do result, and I'll say console log result. All right, before we start adding some CSS, I'm going to go ahead and test to make sure this works. So I'm going to come back here, I'll refresh just for good measure, and I'll start dragging. And oh yeah, we're not logged in, are we? There we go. Start dragging, and we're still not getting any events here. So let's go ahead and see what's going on with that. So we do list, mouse down, filter, users is logged in. Let's go ahead and console log right here. Console log, whoa. Okay, we're definitely not dragging. Let's see if that has that thumb class. It does have that thumb class. So if e.target has class thumb, mouse down, do console log. Do is a great way to debug stuff like this. So do console log, jump into our console. We're definitely not doing it. Oh, that's because I forgot the underscore on attach. I bet you guys noticed that already. All right, now that I've done that, let's come back here and check that out. So now I can move this, and then when I drop, I get an object with a from and a to. So it looks like it's working. But let's go ahead and style the placeholder and other things so that we get some visual feedback while we drag. So So it looks like it's working. So I'll just click here. I'll just scroll down really slowly if you guys want to go ahead and pause the video and take a look at this, what we have so far. And now let's go ahead and open up our playlist SCSS. The first thing I want to do is come up here to our playlist items. And now I'm going to actually make this make sense. Remember a bunch of videos ago, I said that there's a reason why I broke the hover code out into its own section. And that's because I want to say HTML not sorting playlist. I only want this hover event to happen if we're sorting the or if we're not sorting the playlist. Next up, what I want to do is I want to say html.logged-in section.playlist playlist-list li thumb wrapper image, and then cursor is going to be ns resize. And that will give us this nice little ns resize, north-south resize cursor to indicate that a drag operation is possible. All right, now let's scroll down a little bit more here. So I think to the bottom, to where we have is selected right here, I want to say is selected, and then I also want to add a dragging. So now, check that out. So now, while we're dragging that element, he's highlighted like that. The last thing I want to do is style our placeholder. So let's scroll up, and I'm going to create a new section here. I'll do that right above playlist items, and I'll do sorting. And I'll say section.play... That extraneous inner is irritating me. Section.playlist scroll area placeholder. And I'm going to say background. We have quite a few properties to do here. Background lighten border dash panel 20%. Color is going to be color dash highlight. Padding is going to be 5 pixels. Font size is going to be 8. Very important. Position is going to be absolute. Left is going to be 0. Width is going to be 100%. Box sizing is going to be border box. Z index equals 200. So far pretty straightforward. At this point, we should be able to see the... Okay, we do. We're having a couple issues here. One thing that we do need to absolutely do is say pointer events is none. That way, we won't accidentally cause the mouse over event to fire when we drag over the placeholder. So check that out. Looks like we're still having some issues with if we're scrolled down. We can fix that here in a second. After we do that, we'll do display is none, overflow is hidden, text overflow is ellipsis, white space is no wrap. All right, now what I need to do is make this visible when we're sorting the playlist. So html.sorting playlist, I want to say cursor is ns resize. I want everything to have an ns resize cursor, and I want that to be important. Then I want to say section.playlist scroll-area placeholder is displayed block, but then I want to override our cursor default. Well, actually, that important should override the cursor default. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So we also want to say section.playlist playlist-list greater than li cursor is ns resize. There we go. So now we do indeed have a mouse cursor that that does indeed force it to be the ns resize as we're resizing. So we're still having issues with our placeholder with if we're scrolled down a little bit. I think I know how to fix that, actually. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and full screen this. Let's see. Let's go into sort. Oh, same thing I did before with the context menu. We want element at 0.offset top, not the jQuery top method. So let's come over here and refresh, and let's try to sort while we're down here, and it does indeed work. So now we can sort. So again, that's just the dragging and dropping operation. We still need to actually write the server code that'll perform the actual sorting. But I think we'll do that in the next video. So until then, we'll see you guys later.